Hello and welcome to Tales from the Pit, the behind-the-lens access to the entertainment world and the creative people involved. Today we're talking with Mitchell Levine, who has had over 20 years in the industry as a tour manager, promoter, travel agent, producer for acts such as Celtic Women, Pretty Reckless, Skillet, and that's just a few of the bigger names out there. Mitch, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for doing it. Now, yeah. I said Mitch. Is it Mitchell or Mitch? Does it matter?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So first things, we kind of want to get a little bit of a behind the scenes of how you maybe got started or what your life was before you before you got into the industry. Was music a part of it in your younger days or anything like that? Can you kind of give us a little background of where you were and how you got to your destination you are now?
Absolutely. So, I was like a Warped Tour type kid growing up. There was a local band, Punchline, who was on Fueled by Ramen. They're still out there, still active after all these years. That, it was one of my favorite bands in high school. And, just going to a ton of shows, got to know those guys. And when I was in college, they're like, hey, would you book us a show at your school? And I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing, but sure. So I booked a couple Punchline shows at Penn State where I went. And that was kind of my intro into the industry. And kind of through that and from there, I booked Fall Out Boy in a rec room and paid them $50. And through the Fall Out Boy guys, I got hooked up with Victory Records. And my first touring industry job, I drove a Victory van, if you remember those.
Oh yeah.
It was their little promo team that drove around the country, handed out samplers and everything. So that was my first foray into the industry. And from there, my first tour managing gig was Aiden, who was on Victory Records, kind of like an AFI, My Chemical Romance type band, if you remember them.
Yep.
Kind of in the time that both those bands were off making really big records. So that's kind of how I got my start. I then went on to do tour managing and merch for the next about 10 years from there. Doing bands like, a lot of those Christian metal bands like The Chariot or Haste the Day, doing some weirder stuff. Like I did merch for the Jonas Brothers really early on.
Nice.
Jumping from tour to tour over all those years. And from there kind of evolved, met a lot of people. And then it all kind of changed around 2009. It's where I, joined Celtic Woman as their promoter rep on the road. And I kind of did that for a bit. Now I'm off the road since 2011. And I'm part of the producing team now for Celtic Woman. And along with that, I also have a travel agency that specializes in those bands that come from the world that I came from. I've got on tour this week. I've got, I don't know who they are, but they found me, Blue October.
Oh, yeah.
Matty Diaz, Turnover. And I was just on with Judah and the Lions tour manager before I was getting on with you. So, working with those types of bands now. So that kind of
cool.
A real quick career synopsis to get you to today.
So there's a lot of different stuff in there that I kind of want to talk about. Mm-hmm. We'll spend a lot of time talking about what you're currently doing now, but I want to just go back a little bit and talk about the previous things. So you had mentioned doing merch at the beginning. What was your involvement with that process? What exactly did you do when you're handling merch?
Depending on the act, I did merch for a number. Those are usually slightly bigger acts like the Jonas Brothers or Skillet. I did a ton of different jobs with them depending on the day of the week and what was going on. But it was a lot mainly just, set up, sell, count the money, call it a day. Skillet was a lot more involved. I was part of the ordering, helped with a little bit of the design, like choosing designs I thought would work.
Are you talking about t-shirt designs?
Yeah, t-shirt designs and stuff like that. Like, I'm not creative in any sense, but I would, be like, I see our fans, I talk to them every day, like that would work. Or, they'd show me a design or something and to that end, but, projecting of, the number of things to print and, working on ways to get rid of all the things in their warehouse at the time, which was huge.
Yeah.
They had a lot of old dead stock merch. I'm like, let's just take it out and see if we can get through it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a music photographer, and I recently shot a bunch of skillet shows in the last couple of years. That
With
is
the pyro.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he has the fog guns and all that sort of stuff. They had all kinds of crazy stuff. That is a very, very well maintained machine behind the scene. I mean, I don't know how it was back when you were doing it.
It was still that way. I think Scotty, who's their tour manager now, has been with them.
Yeah.
It's funny. I know him. We never worked together. Like, I worked for them at the time he was off doing something else, but he's been with them for ever at this point. Whereas, like, I remember when he had his son, and I think we talked a couple months ago. He's like, yeah, my kid's like 15 now or something. I'm like, that's insane. But
time flies. Yeah.
Time flies. I've known you that long.
So you were on the road with them doing merch, right? You're not just doing the setting up and stuff like that, but so that's probably a really, really I don't want to say steep learning curve, but you probably learned a lot from them just because they're so well organized. I assume.
And it was the volume. You go and play one of those big Christian festivals, and you're blowing through tens of thousands of dollars in merchandise.
No kidding.
Because they just have just some great fans, and those people like to buy merch.
Oh yeah, and I mean they're a great band, and they have they're really, really nice people to hang out with.
So nice.
I worked with several of the bands that I've toured with them, and they're like, anytime we tour with Skillet, we're all set. Everything is taken care of. Those guys are top notch.
They're fantastic people.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't mind, so you went from there. So you went to from there to tour managing. Is that correct?
It was on and off. It was depending on what the work was at the time. It was. If I didn't have a tour managing job, I would see if there's a merch job out there.
Yep.
Tour managing is definitely something I enjoyed a lot more.
Yep.
As I I've always been like the contact person or the person in charge of whatever I've done in my life. Even growing up playing sports, I was always like the team captain or something like that. So it's just weird that it just kept going and, into tour management.
Yeah.
It feeds my personality of just the organization and just planning and getting things done so that, on the day of when something goes wrong, I can fix whatever's the problem is.
Right. And tour managing is basically just a lot of, it's just nonstop problem solving. I assume you're just like, everything's, there's always some unplanned, unknown thing coming at you, and you just constantly problem solving whatever the situation is. Yeah.
No, that's literally, it's always, what's going to go wrong today and how do I have to fix it?
Yep.
Yeah, no, tour managing is a job that I came out of retirement last year for 2 shows where it had been over 10 years. And it was just like riding a bike, but at a very fast pace.
So were you on the road with them?
Yeah, I went out and with the Pretty Reckless last May.
Oh, okay.
They were supporting the Foo Fighters for a couple dates.
Okay. Oh, so I saw them. I shot them a couple times last year, but I think so. I'm a photographer for Bank in New Hampshire Pavilion. I don't know if you're familiar with that venue.
Is that the one in Guilford?
Yep.
No.
Yep. Yeah. So I do a lot of their photos and videos and all that stuff, and I see tons of people that come through all the time. And yeah, I saw Pretty Reckless twice last year, I think it was. So but they were with.
We were with the Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters opened our season, but they were not together with Pretty Reckless.
Yeah. We were in Alabama and Arkansas.
Oh yeah. Nice. And so, what's the difference between promoter and producer and stuff like that?
So on the promoter end, the difference in the two of those, promoter, it's really your job to get out there and sell the tickets, and work with the venues to make sure that the artist has everything that they need. On the producing side, I think it's more on the artist side where you're working with them to, help their vision kind of come to fruition. And so where I kind of step in on the Celtic Woman front, on the producing side of it is, we have our director and a producer in Ireland. And then when it comes to like, okay, we need buses, we need trucks, we need a place to rehearse. So I'm like, more on the ground stateside, helping them work through those items while they can focus more on the creative.
Okay. And that's a lot of, and I assume you're involved at the beginning stages of touring,
very
scheduling
early
and all
with
this stuff.
that one. Yeah. With Celtic Woman, I book all of our shows. I do all the deals with the venues. We self-promote them all, except for a few that we sell off to other promoters. I work with those promoters to help sell the tickets, and then, work with all those venues, the box office setups and logistics there to get all the information to our road team so that they can, do the things that they need to do, the stagehands and build the show and actually get it up there and perform. So I kind of do everything that isn't getting on that stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
For them.
Everything prior to that point. Yeah.
Right.
So my understanding, and you don't have to get into too much detail if you don't want to, but my understanding is promoters sell touring packages to, or they put it out there and they see which venues are interested. Is that how it works? So
for us, I've been with Celtic Woman, I'm coming up on 15 years.
Nice.
We know the markets where we're strong.
Yeah.
We know the venues we want to play. And I'm just going out there and I rent the venues.
Okay.
And we have a marketing team behind us that helps, do all the marketing on, Facebook and newspapers and not newspapers, but, TV and radio and all those things where you see ads for shows. So I'm going out there, 18, 19 months before the tour starts.
Yep.
Being like, okay, we got our 2025 tour. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? What's the plan? And then I'm, reaching out to the venues I know I want to go to and the ones I'd like to go to.
Yep.
And seeing, putting the puzzle pieces together on, the best routing so that we can play Atlanta on a Friday night so that we, have the best opportunity to sell the most tickets. And then, we're not killing them with overdrives, which are, over 450 miles. So you get dinged with more charges, and we've got a number of vehicles. So that adds up pretty quick. Yeah.
For Celtic Women, how big is the crew on that one?
We are, including drivers, 30 people on the road.
So that's what, 2 buses, 3 buses?
3 buses, 2 trucks.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah.
And is that just US based, or are you talking
I handle all their US and Canada stuff.
Okay.
They have a different agent over in Europe for Europe, and they do Australia and Japan occasionally. Yeah. But it's primarily a US touring entity.
Oh, cool.
This is where we do 90% of our touring is here.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
We're up in your world tomorrow. We're in Concord, New Hampshire tomorrow.
Oh,
I think it's a nice sold out show at the Capitol. The people there are so nice.
Yeah, Concord's awesome. I mean, we cover a lot of shows in there. And actually, a person that I co-host this show with, she couldn't make it today because she's already on a different meeting. Mm-hmm. She's actually in Concord right now.
Oh, funny.
So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a small. This world is so small.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. All right. So you don't go out on the road at all with Celtic Women? You just you're all in house.
I pop out every now and then to see what people are doing. If it's a show's close to me, I'll drive out and go see them. But yeah, I don't travel with that show anymore. I try to stay off the road as much as I can.
Is there any? Right. Yeah. If you can, is there any closing pieces you have to handle? So after an artist passes through town, are you still involved with that previous location?
I do all the show settlements as well for that tour.
Yeah.
So, the show's going on, and, the next day I'm looking through all the finals, the box office reports, the stage hands, double checking all the marketing and all of those types of things to make sure, it all adds up. So even after the show ends, I'm still kind of talking to the venue the next day to make sure that we're all, all squared away. And then it's talking to them for, all right, let's talk about next time.
Nice. So plan ahead. Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. You're currently, as you mentioned, your major focus now is more of the travel agent side of things.
Correct.
And it's not just for Celtic Women; it's for a wide. I mean, you're establishing a major tour package for small artists, large artists, whatever in between.
So I'm out there trying to take the place of, those bands that are really doing it themselves. They don't have an advocate with the hotels and things like that. So I'm building out an online booking platform where similar to, what you're used to with booking a hotel room, but instead of booking one room, we can book your whole tour at once and handle some of the other back end logistics that go into, a bus driver going to a hotel. As I'm building that out, and I've taken on a number of these clients and just helping them with all their hotel needs. So you've got these tour managers that are, they're a tour manager, they're front of house, they're production managing a lot of these shows as well. So if I can take that one piece off of them, and it's a free service for them. So yep, Mitch has been on the road for years. He knows the best place to park in Boise, Idaho. They give me their route, they give me their budget, and I go, there you go. There's all your hotels. You're done.
Nice.
So that's, something I'm trying to really build up right now and put out there for those bands that, they're not booking 10, 20 rooms a night. They're booking one or two.
Right.
And it's just a very time consuming, laborious process that, I've built a kind of a better way and a quicker way to do it. And just with my efficiencies on it, it takes them days, takes me hours.
Yeah. And I work with some small local bands on, photos and videos and stuff like that. And I know the thing I notice a lot with bands is they want to get out there and tour, but they have no clue where to book a show. They have no clue how to budget for it. They have no clue to, what they should be thinking about as they're going through all that process. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I was just talking to a manager yesterday, who's a good friend of mine. He's got a great, great artist. That's up and coming. Her name's Ken Pomeroy, I believe it is. She's really good, but it's just talking about touring now versus touring when we both started in the industry, where it was, you get in the van and you drive to every city, you play every city. And now it's okay, you're strategic from the beginning of it, cause just the cost of touring is so high now. You can't just drive to a city for $50 and play a show and, $50 won't even cover your gas between the two shows.
Oh God, no.
Let alone anything else. But I think about, the beginning of touring where it's sleeping on floors and cool, we got $100 today.
Yeah. Do you have to, well, so when an artist, say somebody new like that kind of uses your services, are you educating them on here's some of the do's and don'ts? Yes. Here's what you do, here's what you don't, stuff like that. Do you have go ahead. Sorry. I
don't have a hit list, I think, as you're trying to get to, but it's kind of I'm here as a resource to you guys. I've done this. It's mainly a lot of young tour managers. I'm call me with any question you have. How do I deal with a crappy promoter? Or, how do you, get merch into Canada? We've never done this.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Across the board.
So it's just when you get new bands and new tour managers, I'm just there are people that helped me out at the beginning. So now I want to be there for that next generation that's coming up now, where it's kind of feels a lot more corporate than when I started.
Yep.
And you've got all these services that are kind of charging for tour management classes. And I'm that's not how you learned. Why are you charging somebody else?
Right.
We need to mentor the next generation of people so that, you don't that they can keep touring and take over these bands that can't afford to pay anybody. You go out there, it's an internship for the most part at the beginning because the pay isn't great, but there's no other way to learn it.
Yeah, definitely on the job. Yeah, totally.
It's I see it on BobNet where they're looking for these young gun tour managers and all the old heads are I wouldn't go out for that much a week. I'm no, but you would have when you were 19.
Of course, yeah, and you're brand new and hungry.
You're brand new, you're hungry. It's not the best. I wish there was money to pay these people, but there's also no other way to learn. And if you take a job paying, $2,000 a week, there's expectations of your abilities. And if you can't get to that skill set, how do you, take those jobs?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're kind of answering a question I was just going to ask, is for people that want to do this stuff, you kind of just hit that, but you also need to be cut out a certain way to be on the road and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about some of the more uncomfortable or great experiences you had that you feel comfortable talking about on the road or anything like that?
The van alone is just uncomfortable. You've got 6 to 10 stinky guys in a 15 passenger van and,
with no shower.
No, we have showers. There's the venue, the hotels have showers, but some people just don't. That's just them. But I remember specifically, I was in West Texas. I think it was Midland or Odessa, one of those places. And we stayed at some girl's house And I remember we were sleeping on her floor and it was just covered in like CD cases. This is like in, 2007 or something. And like, I'm like, I woke up in the morning, I started looking at CDs and it was just like cockroaches in the CDs. I'm like, this is just gross. Like, and you're like, I want to do this. And like, that's like, I probably couldn't get me to do that now, but at 22 years old, I'm like, this is weird, but it's great. There's nothing else I want to do at this point in my life. On like the other end of it is, I don't know, last year when I was out with Pretty Reckless, like I'm watching the Foo Fighters from the side of the stage and Pat Smear is just drinking Veuve Clicquot. That's his stage drink. I'm like, well, he's in Nirvana. He's as cool as he can be. And like, I can't believe I'm like 10 feet away from this.
Yep.
So it's like, that's kind of two complete ends of the spectrum where it's just like, cockroaches in a CD case. And then you're seeing, two members of Nirvana from 10 feet away. And those dudes are just hanging out with you because you're on the tour with them.
Yep. They opened our season last year, Foo Fighters. That was their very, very first show with Josh, the new drummer. It was incredible. And then, I forget who Pretty Reckless was with when I saw them, but I've seen them a couple times last year, as I mentioned. I don't know if she still is, but she used to, Taylor used to live up here in Maine. I'm in Portland, Maine right now. I don't think she does anymore.
Ben's family's from up in Maine.
Right. Yeah.
The guitar player, his family's from up there. So they spent a lot of time up there. Yeah.
And because they record at the Halo studio, which is somewhere around here. And then, what's his name? Mark, I think it's Mark, or maybe the drummer is from New Hampshire.
Jamie and Mark both live in New Hampshire.
Yeah, okay, that's what it was.
So the guitar player and the bass player both live up in New Hampshire. So it's funny. Celtic Woman's old fiddle player is also lives up in New Hampshire, and she's married to Godsmack's lighting guy.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, really?
His name's Jim Mustafa. He's from up there as well. Yep. But it was just like, when I started working with Pretty Reckless, I do all their travel. That's how I got like wrapped in with them. And I was like booking a car service for them. I'm like, I used to do this 15 years ago for Marade, doing the exact same thing, like just booking a car from Maine to the airport in Boston to fly her out for a tour. So it's just really funny that it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly where you are. Like I know these little towns, and just funny that it's, like I said, it just all kind of keeps coming back.
Hey, I just want to jump in here real quick and say that if you're enjoying the show, please check us out on all podcast locations and on YouTube. Search for Tales from the Pit podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe. It helps us grow the show. All right, back to the show. I'm not asking about my venue, but do you have favorite locations that you like going to?
So in the US, Red Rocks is always incredible.
Yep.
To walk up to the top of those stairs and watch your artist on the stage and like have Denver in the background. I think the last time I was there was a couple of years ago, and there was like a thunderstorm in Denver, but we were fine because we were out, at Morrison and Red Rocks. So there's like lightning in the background, and you've got the stage set, and he's just going, I'm like, this is really cool. Other than that, I remember we headlined the old Astoria in London, which is no longer there. It's a train station, but doing that and then seeing them just literally throw us out the door and have a huge Kylie Minogue party that had more people than our show. I'm like, this is a really cool, special place. And we all went to the Kylie party after we loaded out, where it's like, well, we're just going to stay and do this because this is cool. But those are two like really cool experiences. And I think, anytime you get to go to Japan, just the way that they take care of you over there is insane. I sent a stage plot, and our stage was perfect when I showed up.
Really?
I was like blown away by this.
No kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Red Rocks is on my bucket list. And I'm hoping maybe this summer that'll be achieved, but we'll see. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. The, jumping back over to your travel, what is the name of your travel business?
Yeah. My agency is called Valise. So it's suitcase in French. And our website's just valise.live. It's just a placeholder now, but you can always reach out to me, and I'm there to help out. I was just trying to think of a cool name that, had something to do with travel, but like everything is taken.
Yep.
So I'm like, suitcase in French sounds cool.
So for any artist of any size or
any size, I've got 2 bands in vans this week that I've got, and then I've got Celtic Woman out there in 3 buses and 2 trucks. So any band of any size I really take care of, but I'm really, here to help those little guys that don't have anyone.
Cool.
You know, anyone would take Celtic Woman as a travel client, but
cool. You know. We'll hit those links again at the end of the show and also put them in the show notes down below. But I want to go back and talk about a few other things if that's
absolutely.
all right.
So, no, this is fun. It was great.
So you talked about retiring from the road.
Yes.
And I just want to ask, I ask this pretty much of everyone who's on the road. How does being on the road affect your health, your life and stuff like that? Is that why you retire, or is it, you know, it was just time? Is there any, can you give any guidance on how the road affects that?
No, so I was a good opportunity for me where I was touring for Celtic Woman, and then my bosses at the time were like, would you move to New York, work in the office and help us with more parts of the tour when you're off the road? I'm like, yeah, that's great. I have a tour that goes out every year and I have a job for when I'm home. Perfect. Love this. And as I moved to New York and took over that, they're like, oh yeah, you're not going back on the road. So they kind of told me I was off the road.
Okay.
But I was also getting to the point where like, I wasn't just enjoying it as much as I used to. And I think I was, you know, I made myself more tied to my desk than I needed to be on the road. And I didn't really experience a lot of the places I was in, even though I had the time, the ability. So that's where I kind of realized, okay, I'm not mentally cut out for this anymore. You know, I was still pretty young when I got off the road. But I definitely knew in my head that, you know, I didn't want to be in my 50s and 60s and still having to tour. Because I see some of the older guys, I'm just like, that just looks hard. It's hard to have a life. I saw the divorces of people that I knew. Like I saw them get married and divorced, like in, you know, a couple of years, because it's a hard life.
Yep.
You know, I missed a lot of weddings and like family things over the years. And now I'm lucky, like I don't miss those things anymore because I'm not on the road. But that's definitely the hardest part is you're gone. You know, I only have like a handful of friends like from that time period left because like they're the only ones that really understood it. You know, most people, oh yeah, Mitch is gone for 6 months. You know, they move on, you live your life. Yeah. It's hard to keep that going, especially, you know, when you're gone that long. So that's kind of.
In my experience as well, on top of all that, it seems like time is just so fast and you just are so, because you're so in your own bubble, I guess, you know, in your traveling bubble, you just kind of things just progress so fast without you realizing it until later on. You're like, oh my God, has it really been that amount of time since, you know, that thing happened or something like that?
Yeah.
That was just my observation. It's just the time shift.
Especially on like the bigger tours where you're on a bus, you wake up at the next venue, and especially on an arena tour where it just all looks the same. Yeah. You know, you're in a parking lot behind an arena or you're in an amphitheater. And unless you're at one of the cool ones, you know, like you guys up in Guilford or something, like they all look the same. You know, they don't have any like special character to even distinguish your day.
Right.
So, like, I think concrete. That just starts wearing on you as well. Where you're like, I just saw this yesterday. It's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Yeah. And your schedule's the same thing almost every day anyway. So it's like, all right, this is just Groundhog Day over and over again. Totally.
Yeah.
When you're like trying to get your mind off of all that stuff and you're trying to, you know, just trying to enjoy yourself, what are you, what's your hobbies? What are things you like to do yourself?
So like now I'm off the road. So like, you know, my life is pretty much my own most of the time, except when my clients need me. You know, I do a lot of yoga these days. Just try to, you know, get out and even just take a walk whenever I can. And I even tried that. Like when I went on the road, it was just for like 5 days last year, but I'm like, okay, cool. We have a day off. I got the band into the hotel. I'm going for a walk. You know, make sure they're sorted. They know how to get me if they need me, but like take some time for myself, get out, look around, go see what I can see. You know, luckily we were like a day up in like Birmingham, which was cool. Like some good coffee shops, found some good food. And I think I even got tattooed that day out of like, just walked into a shop and like, who's free? So I think that was kind of, you know, going out and doing that. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do the things I didn't do when I was touring, like for real. Like I'm going to go see things just to break it up and make it a little more interesting. That's kind of how I try to look at it now, is trying to see the things I didn't do when I was at the beginning, where I'm like, I have to be working. I have to be at my desk. I have to be at the venue. And like, I didn't.
And I assume right now you're just on call, you know, at all hours for whatever.
Luckily in the world that I'm in, you know, the type of clients I have, you know, it's once 1 to 4 p.m. passes every day, I don't really hear from anybody. It's mainly, the bus driver gets in the hotel. It's a good day. That's it. And I've got my processes and my planning down to the point now where, definitely at the beginning, I was getting, 5 or 6 phone calls every day from bus drivers like, oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. And now I just don't hear from them, which is so nice.
That's good. I mean, the more homework you do up front is hopefully that resolves a lot of that, right?
Do more work, set up better processes. And I was literally just talking to a tour manager that I've worked with probably for 2 years, like Judah's tour manager. I was like, remember the first, how much we were calling each other then, and now we just don't talk. I'll talk to a tour manager at the beginning, and I'm like, cool, I'll see you for your next tour. Because the goal is that I just never have to hear from them.
That's great. Yeah. That's,
because of the planning. And at this level, it is, on a one bus, tour, things aren't going to change very much.
Can I ask from a photographer's perspective or from a publications perspective and stuff like that, are you involved with any of that process at all, radio spots, all that sort of stuff, or is that more handled by the tour manager or something like that?
As far as with Celtic Woman, because I handle a lot of different roles, I'm working with producers like, okay, we need a photographer in city X to shoot, some B-roll for us.
Yep.
And just because of, I've been around so long at this point, I'm like, okay, cool. Who do I know in city X? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, do you have a photographer you really, really like? And that's kind of the extent of it, where I'll find the person we need for those types of things. Mm-hmm. As far as for radio spots and things like that, we work with, our marketing director. She really takes the lead on that, takes the footage and things like that we give her from our PBS special or from live shots. And then she works with, one of those tour production companies to create, our 15 and 30 second spots that have that voice you all heard.
Right. Yeah.
Coming to where, City X.
Sunday.
Yes, that guy.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm just looking at some of my notes I have. I got all kinds of varied questions here.
And I was thinking my thoughts on photographers at the beginning. I'm like, oh God, they're so annoying. They're always there. And I'm like, as I started touring more and more and I met some better ones over the years, mm-hmm. They're like, okay, cool. Send them off. Let them do their thing.
Yeah.
Nice and easy.
It's really a mix. I'm a venue photographer, but I also cover for media and stuff like that for, other up in Bangor and, down in Boston, stuff like that. But it's really, I find that it's a mix. Even I'll say since COVID, it's been an interesting mix because now it seems to be a lot of influencers who are trying to take on the photography spots, which is, I don't care. It's fine with me. It depends on what the band needs or the venue needs.
Right.
But there seems to be there's a lot of change. I've seen some good, some bad. I've seen some people who really need to learn manners, and I've seen other people who are really helpful to people and stuff like that. So it's really interesting. I mean, I think the bottom line from a photographer's perspective, the bottom line is to really sort of help enhance the hype for the show, or hey, you missed an awesome show, you got to catch them next time around, stuff like that. But do you have to deal with a lot of influencers and all that sort of stuff, or is that just all marketing?
For us, we're not really in that space at all for Celtic. Yeah. We do some mommy blogs and stuff like that, but it's not like the TikTok influencer type of world. We've got a much older demographic.
Sure.
Which they probably don't even know what TikTok is unless their grandkids show it to them. So luckily I haven't, but I don't know. They can be great people. I just don't. I've had some TikTok clients.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think I've had one, and I've watched them grow. It was a tour a couple of years ago. I was artist Ricky Montgomery. I think he got her start on TikTok, and I've seen him now just move up from 400 cap rooms to 2,000. Oh, that's pretty cool. His music must be his fans are really connecting with him, and he's growing, which is interesting to see someone grow that way versus how bands from my, I'd say, generation. I'm not that old, but grew.
It changes fast though.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a completely different world. If a band asked me today how to get your start, I'm like, I don't know.
It's very bizarre, and we probably don't have to go too far down this, but I work with a couple local bands that are blowing up right now. There's a band called 12OC. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a country band, and they are doing a lot of sellouts for East Coast tours and stuff like that. And they only have three singles out. They don't even have an album out, and they're already blowing up like crazy. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. Very interesting, but at the same time, I know other bands that are super talented and they can't get 10 people in to see them.
Yeah.
So it's really weird.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's hard to put your finger on, but I will say talent and and how you deal with your fans and your friends makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. So and it shows too. And it shows. Yeah. What do you do? So, I mean, this is probably more of a tour manager related question, but if you roll up into, if your team rolls up into a venue and none of the equipment's missing or something's broken and stuff like that, are they calling you? And are you like, all right, got to call the rental places, or are you just, is that all kind of covered already?
I mean, hopefully with your advance work and everything, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And luckily, I think in my timing, I think I've had one thing show up, not happen. And I wasn't the point of contact. It wasn't like in my wheelhouse to fix, but like, luckily through like how I plan and how I prep for everything, those things just don't happen. Like something might break, but then you're like, okay, cool. Where am I? Where can I figure this out? Like there's almost always a way to fix something and make it work. I mean, we've had a drummer get sick, and I think our drum tech just played the next like 3 shows.
Oh,
like he knew the music so well. He's like, I got this.
Always have a backup, even if it's a person, right? Yeah,
right. This is like, I mean, if it was one of the primaries went down, that's a different story. But like, luckily our drum tech at the time was very a talented drummer in his own right, and he hopped in and played like 3 or 4 shows.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, we're running low. I'm just going to ask you a few more questions, if that's all right. No. I was just going to ask. I mean, we sort of talked about this. We sort of covered this, but the big thing that I hear a lot for people who are fans, who are not in the industry, who are fans, is the cost of ticket pricing. But they don't really realize the cost of touring. And I think that, as you mentioned earlier, the more efficient you are with touring, the more you can sort of get a better experience for everyone involved. Can you talk about the touring costs at all or anything like that?
You hit like my biggest hot button issue is ticketing. I could literally talk for days on this topic. I was listening to a podcast yesterday with a bunch of people from South by Southwest about ticketing, and they're like, well, we've got to have the service fees because that's how we pay for stuff. I'm like, yeah, no, you don't. Like, the service fees are just a way to increase the promoter's money without sharing it with the artist. The artist doesn't get to see any of the bar. They have to pay a merch fee, which stems back from the 70s when promoters were overspending to get Led Zeppelin in their stadium. Like, now they're blaming all these things, but these things have always existed, and it's a world that these promoters and artists have created. I wish there was just an all-in ticketing price where, this is what it is. You don't have to wait till the checkout to get there. It's not fair to the fan, and the fact that these promoters and ticketing companies like blame other people.
Right.
You have the control. Taylor Swift's the biggest kind of example of this. Like, she's like, all this stuff went wrong with my ticketing. I have no control. I'm like, you're the biggest artist in the world. If you told Ticketmaster, no scalping, no transfer of tickets, cap it at this, it would happen. Right. But she knew exactly what she was doing. She blamed Ticketmaster. The site going down is Ticketmaster's fault. I will blame that on them. But like everything else, like, she had control over. Like, she's the only one that could make a change. Her and Beyonce are the only 2 artists big enough.
Of course, yeah.
But they just don't, because it's financially makes the most sense. So I could go on for days and days and days about this. On the production side of things, it's just gotten incredibly expensive. I remember like getting my first buses, and then, this was a while ago, like $1,000 a day. Now you're at $3,000 a day, for all your bus costs. and you still have to get from city to city, and everything's more expensive. But like, there's only a certain amount of money a person can pay for a ticket for your average show. Like Taylor Swift and Beyonce are different.
Yep.
You know, everyone else price really comes into it. And I think through COVID also, a lot of the good, like touring people, a lot of people left. So that, you know, the crew can demand more higher fees, which they absolutely deserve because they've got skills that people don't have. Like, I have no idea how my lighting people do any of the things that they do. You know, I don't know how my front of house and my monitor guys make any of that work. You know, you could not throw me out there. I could not figure this out.
Right. Yeah. It's complex stuff.
So it's just like, these people are highly skilled and there aren't that many people that can do it. So the prices just keep going up and up and up on everything because there's less people. Like I said before, there's not really training. So it's like hard to get new people in and make sure they're seasoned enough to take on that work. And I think that's the thing that I think people might miss from the, you know, the fan side, which I kind of wish I might still be on instead of the other side. I think being a fan's kind of cooler. Like, I look at price, like the cost of everything when I'm at a show.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, cool. Like, oh, they brought these lights out. Okay. You know, they've got this many crew. Okay. They're that bus. They're like, it's all just numbers running through my head when I go to a show now.
Yeah.
Whereas like my wife is going to a show and she's just having a good time.
Yeah. And you see it from front to back. I mean, you see the full amount, the numbers of everything. So
I know the numbers from every piece.
Yeah.
Like we went to New York last fall to see Boy Genius and Muna. And I'm just running through the numbers in my head. I'm like, well, this show didn't make any money. It's also Madison Square Garden, so no one makes money at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
It's just incredibly expensive and a really cool place to do a show.
Yeah.
But I'm just like running numbers in my head the whole time. Like, I just wish I could turn it off.
Yeah, you're behind the scenes seeing how the sausage is made. It's like it's hard to unsee that once you know it. Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you, what do you got coming up? Anything for this year? Anything you can talk about?
So Celtic Woman's out right now. We're in the middle of our 20th anniversary tour.
Yep.
It's crazy that I've been there since almost the beginning of it. It's really cool to see. I'm excited I've been to one show. I'll probably go to 2 or 3 more on this one. I've got, just a ton of travel clients on the road right now. Blue October, Set It Off, IDK, the High Kings, who are a great Irish folk band, really good friends of mine. I'm excited to start working on some summer tours, and I think I'm working with like Iron and Wine. Excited for when Pretty Reckless gets back on the road. I always, I just love working with those guys. They're just fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them back again.
Yeah, no, they're working on an album, and it should be interesting. They're going to announce some cool stuff, I think, hopefully this year.
Good.
But yeah, no, it's, just kind of always bands on tour, and I think there's like 1 week a year where I've got no one on tour.
Yeah.
So it's like that week, it's like the last week of December. I'm like, okay, no one's going to bother me this week.
You can get your work done.
No, it's like, just turn it all off. Turn my computer off. Let it be for a week and just let it all go.
Disconnect. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah.
Well, Mitch, I want to say thank you so much for joining me. A lot of really cool stuff. You're the man in doing it, making it happen. And obviously for all of the bands looking for someone to guide them.
Yeah.
All that stuff. You're the man.
Yep.
Where do people go to find out? Do you have
email's easy? Yeah, I've got socials. I don't really use them. I just don't enjoy posting and stuff like that. Best way is just shoot me an email. It's just my first name, Mitch, at valise.live. And then I think it's Mitchelle Levine on Instagram is my personal. But yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm here. Bands of any size. Glad to help, talk. Always enjoy helping young and newcomers kind of figure out how to make it work. Awesome, man.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. No, this was fun. Thank you again for having me.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode with Mitch Levine. We hope you enjoyed it. You can check out our other guests, our other episodes on all your favorite podcast locations and on YouTube. Search for Tales from the Pit Podcast. And on our website, talesfromthepit.net. And until the next time, we'll see you. This episode was edited and produced by me, Jason Levasseur.